Analysis of doors. Good morning and welcome. Today is the 4th of April, 1998. Last week, we discussed analysis of roots and function. Today, we'll discuss doors, objects, and bases. Let's start with Dvarasangaha. Dvara means door. Like our door here in this room, it serves as an entrance and an exit, right? It allows us to get in and get out. In the same way, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind are also called doors, or Dvara. They act as doors for objects to enter. Take visible objects, for example. If you're blind, visible objects can't get in, you can't see them. So the eye is a door, right? It's a door for the visible object to enter. We have 6 doors. 1. Kakudvara, or eye door. The eye itself is the eye door, but it's not the entire eye. The eye door is the sensory surface of the eye, or the eye sensitivity. Some beings have eyes but can't see, right? This is because their eye lacks sensitivity. So, the sensory surface of the eye is the eye door. 2. Sotadvara, or ear door. 3. Ganadvara, or nose door. 4. Jivhadvara, or tongue door. 5. Kayadvara, or body door. The ear itself is the ear door. The nose itself is the nose door. The tongue itself is the tongue door. And the body itself is the body door. 6. Manadvara, or mind door. How many types of Bhavanga consciousness do we have? 19. These 19 types of Bhavanga Sata are called mind door. Firstly, what are these 19 types of consciousness? They are the 2 types of Upeka Santirana, the 8 types of Mahavipaka, and the 9 types of sublime resultant consciousness. Whenever any object enters the eyes, the ears, especially the mind, there is Bhavanga before any thought consciousness arises. Remember, there is vibrating Bhavanga, arresting Bhavanga, and then, we have Manadvaravajana and Javana. In order for thought consciousness to arise, we must first have Bhavanga, right? That's why Bhavanga is called mind door. Every thought process is preceded by mind door, or Bhavanga. So, we have 6 doors. We also have Dvara Vimutta. Vimutta means without, so this term refers to without doors, or door freed. We'll talk about that in a bit. Awareness is very important when we practice meditation, right? Awareness, or mindfulness, protects our doors. If you keep the door to your home open all the time, a thief might enter, right? To prevent thieves from stealing our property, we have to close our doors. We have to watch our doors carefully in order to remain safe. So what do we need to keep our 6 doors safe? We need mindfulness, or awareness. That's why we practice meditation. If you lack mindfulness, whenever you see something pleasurable or desirable, what do you feel? Attachment, greed, or desire. If the object is undesirable, perhaps anger or hatred arises. But when you have mindfulness, when you see something you're just aware of it and know it as seeing, and then the object passes, with no attachment or hatred. Mindfulness acts as security to protect us by not allowing mental defilements, such as hatred, jealousy and delusion, to get into our mind. In Pali, we use the word kilesa for mental defilement. If we don't protect our 6 doors, mental defilements get into our mind and we feel unhappy. But when we do protect our 6 doors, it's just seeing, and then the object passes. When it passes, we return our awareness to our primary object of meditation. It's the same when you hear something. If you lack mindfulness, when you hear a desirable or pleasant sound, you might like it and then desire, attachment, greed occurs in your mind. On the other hand, if you don't like it, then you might get mad at the sound. Awareness is very important. In Pali, we call it sati, or mindfulness. When there's a sound, it's just hearing, and then the sound disappears. You then return to your primary object of meditation. This awareness protects the ear and doesn't let mental defilements get in the door. These doors are very important. When you allow objects to come into your eye door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, body door and mind door, mental defilement arises and you experience anger or anxiety, etc. So, when you sit in meditation, satipatthana, the application of mindfulness, is especially important. When you don't allow mental defilement to get in your doors, your mind becomes pure and peaceful. When you have mindfulness, whatever you see or hear, it's just seeing, or hearing. When you smell, it's just smelling. You ignore the object and just have awareness of it. When you eat something and feel that it's very tasty, that's desire or attachment. And if you don't like the food, that's dosa, hatred or aversion. Instead, whenever you chew, just know there's chewing. When you swallow, just know there is swallowing. Be aware of the movement of your tongue in your mouth, and then you will finish your meal with no mental defilement getting into your mind. For the 5 physical sense objects, it's easy. What about the mind door? When you close your eyes and also don't hear, smell, taste or feel anything, your mind might still be moving around thinking about this and that, thinking about the past, the future, planning, and imagining. And because of these mental movements, you might feel loneliness, sorrow, happiness or sadness. This is because you did not have mindfulness of your thoughts. That's why when we practice meditation we're not supposed to think about anything. Thinking is not meditation, and meditation is not thinking. When we practice meditation, we just observe our primary object, maybe the movement of our body, sensation, or perhaps the movement of our mind, and whatever occurs, just be aware of it and identify it. When we do that with every moment and with every activity of mind and body, we realize it, all the time, whenever it occurs. And in those moments, no mental defilement occurs. This is because we had mindfulness. But if we lack mindfulness, our mind just goes around thinking about this and that. Mental defilement just arises and disappears, arises and disappears. We might sit in meditation for 1 hour and have mental defilement for almost the entire hour. Instead, we need to concentrate on one object. Be aware of the one object. This is sati. Sati is like security. It doesn't allow any mental defilement to get into our 6 doors. This is very important. That's why the Buddha said that the only way to gain enlightenment is satipatthana, or mindfulness, awareness. It's very clear that when we leave our house open, thieves will enter and cause trouble. In the same way, instead of gaining merit, wisdom or concentration through mindfulness, when mental defilement gets in our mind, there is no concentration and no wisdom. This is because our lack of mindfulness allowed mental defilement to get in and cause problems. We need to practice meditation and be aware of every psychophysical activity through mindfulness. Let's look at Kakudvara. Since we're already familiar with the 121 types of consciousness, it's very easy for us to explore this analysis of doors. So, 46 types of consciousness can arise at the eye door. What are they? I'll give you a method that makes it easy to remember. How many types of sense sphere consciousness do we have? 54. Ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness cannot arise in our eye, right? We can't touch our eye and taste it, right? See? Tongue consciousness cannot arise in the eye door. So, excluding the 2 types of ear consciousness, the 2 types of nose consciousness, the 2 types of tongue consciousness, and the 2 types of body consciousness, that's 46 types of consciousness remaining. These 46 types of consciousness can arise in the eye door. Sublime consciousness and supramundane consciousness cannot arise in the eye door either. Let's look at Sotatvara now. How many types of consciousness can arise at the ear door? 46. What are they? It follows the same formula as for the eye door, right? The function of the eye door is to take a visible object. It cannot hear, right? So, we exclude the 8 that don't have to do with hearing. In the same way, it's 46 types of consciousness that can arise at Ganadvara. Very simple, right? 46 types of consciousness can also arise at Jivhadvara. Eye consciousness cannot arise at our tongue, right? Ear consciousness cannot arise there either. Nor can nose consciousness or body consciousness. That's why we exclude 8 types of consciousness for each of these. Go to Kayadvara. How many? 46. Now, go to Manadvara, or mind door. How many types of consciousness can arise here? 67. What are they? They are the 2 types of Upeka Santirana, the 1 type of Somanasa Santirana, the 1 type of Vadapana, the 29 types of Kamavikara Jivana, the 26 types of Apana Jivana, and the 8 types of Kamavikara Vipaka. Altogether, that's 67 types of consciousness that can arise at the mind door. How many types of Jivana Sata are there? 55. These 55 types of consciousness perform the function of Jivana. Those, plus the 1 type of Manadvaravajana, mind door adverting consciousness, and the 11 types of retention can arise at the mind door. What are these 11 types of retention? They are the 3 types of Santirana and the 8 types of Mahavipaka. These 11 are called retention. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness cannot arise at the mind door, right? We classify Jivana Sata as being of 55 types. We'll break these 55 down into the 2 groups. One group belongs to Kama, and the other belongs to Apana, sublime consciousness and Lokutra Sata. So, there are 29 types of Kamavikara Jivana. What are they? They are the 12 types of unwholesome consciousness, the 1 type of smile-producing consciousness, the 8 types of Kamavikara Sobhana and the 8 functional types of consciousness. These 29 types of consciousness are Kamavikara Jivana. When we see something, perhaps this Jivana will arise. There may be unwholesome consciousness, or maybe smile-producing consciousness, beautiful wholesome consciousness, or perhaps functional consciousness for this Kama object. There are also 26 types of Apana Sata. Apana means sublime. These 26 types of consciousness can arise through the mind door only. What are they? First, they are the 9 types of Mahagata Kusala and the 9 types of Mahagata Kiriya. Mahagata refers to the sublime, Rupavikara and Arupavikara. Remember that we have 27 types of sublime consciousness, which consists of the 15 types of Rupavikara consciousness and the 12 types of Arupavikara consciousness. When we say Apana or Mahagata here, we are referring to the 9 types of sublime wholesome consciousness and the 9 types of sublime functional consciousness. That's 18 types of consciousness, right? Then, we have supramundane consciousness, briefly, the 4 types of Magga Sata and the 4 types of Phala Sata. That's a total of 26 types of consciousness, which we call Apana Jivana. So, the 29 types of Kamavikara Jivana and the 26 types of Apana Jivana total 55 types of Jivana Sata. Now, let's talk about Dvara Vimutta, or without door. Some types of consciousness don't arise in any door. How many of these are there? 19. These 19 types of consciousness are without door. What are they? Relinking consciousness, or Bhavanga consciousness. They mean the same thing here because their function is the same. These 19 types of consciousness perform the function of relinking. So, what specifically are they? They are the 2 types of Santirana, the 8 types of Mahavipaka Sata, the 5 types of Rupavikara Vipaka, and the 4 types of Arupavikara Vipaka. Together, that's 19 types of relinking consciousness. These 19 are called relinking, rebirth or Bhavanga consciousness. All 3 of these terms are correct. So, these 19 types of consciousness cannot arise in any door. Why? Look at Manadvara. What is it? Bhavanga Sata. They don't arise in any door because Bhavanga itself is the mind door. So these 19 types of relinking consciousness are called Dvara Vimutta, or without door. Let's talk about how many doors the various types of consciousness can arise in. How many 1 Dvara Sata are there? 36. This means that 36 types of consciousness arise in one door. What are these 36 types of consciousness? First, they are the 10 types of Dvipankavinyana, twice fivefold sense impression. Look at eye consciousness. What door? Just the eye door, right? Both types of eye consciousness arise in only one door. So, the 10 types of Dvipankavinyana arise in only one door, accordingly. The 26 types of sublime consciousness, Apana Jivana, have only one door, too. What door? Manadvara, or mind door. These types of consciousness depend upon bhavana, or meditation. Without meditation, these Jivana cannot arise. So, Jivana consciousness has only one door, the mind door. Altogether, these 36 types of consciousness arise in one door, accordingly. How many 5 Dvara Sata are there? 3. These 3 types of consciousness arise in 5 doors. What are the 3? Mind element, which is Panyukadvaravajana, and the 2 types of Sampadachana. These 3 are called Manadhatu, or mind element. They arise in 5 doors. Whichever of the 5 sense objects gets into our sense doors, Panyukadvaravajana functions before eye consciousness, and so on, arises. It has to perform its function as apprehending first. Also, for the 5 objects to attach to the eye, ear, and so on, receiving consciousness has to perform its function. This is why mind element, these 3 types of consciousness, arises in 5 doors, the eye door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, and body door. How many 6 Dvara Sata are there? 31. These 31 types of consciousness arise in 6 doors. What are these 31 types of consciousness? They are the 1 type of pleasurable investigating consciousness, the 1 type of determining consciousness, Manadvaravajana, and the 29 types of Kamavikara Jivana. These 31 types of consciousness always arise in 6 doors. We have 2 types of Santirana resultant consciousness, right? If the object is normal, desirable, it is Upeka. And if it is very, very desirable, then it is pleasurable investigating consciousness. Remember that pleasurable investigating consciousness arises through the 5 physical doors, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. And it also sometimes occurs through the mind door as Tadaramana, or retention. So, this Santirana always arises through the 5 sense doors and the mind door. As for Manadvaravajana, when the five sense objects get in the door, this sata performs its duty as vadapana, or determining. With the mind door, it performs its function as apprehending, right? So, Manadvaravajana also always arises in 6 doors. The 29 types of Kamavikara Jivana also arise in 6 doors. When you see something, unwholesome consciousness might arise, right? And when an arahant sees something, they might smile, right? It depends on whether there was one of the 5 sense objects, or perhaps if they thought about something, mind door, right? Smile-producing consciousness can arise in 6 doors. There are also the 8 types of wholesome consciousness. When you do something meritorious, you see a monk or an image of the Buddha, or if you hear the Dhamma, you might feel happy about it. That's wholesome consciousness arising for ordinary worldling people. But for arahants, whenever they see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or think, that's functional consciousness. See? 6 doors. Altogether, that's 31 types of consciousness that always arise in 6 doors. How many types of consciousness are sometimes 6 Dvara Sata and sometimes 0 Dvara Sata? 10. What are they? They are the 2 types of Upeka Santirana and the 8 types of great resultant consciousness. These 10 types of consciousness arise at either 6 doors or without door. When they arise in 6 doors, these 10 types of consciousness perform their function as Tadaramana. This follows Jivana Sata, right? At that moment, when their function is Tadaramana, it has 6 doors. If you see something, for example, then Tadaramana after Jivana fully experiences the object. You might find yourself thinking about the past via the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body or mind. So when they perform the function of retention, they arise in 6 doors. And when they perform the functions of Padasandhi, Bhavanga and Kuti, they are without door. For example, when a cat or a dog sleeps, its consciousness is Upeka Santirana. It performs the function of Bhavanga, or falling asleep. At that time, Bhavanga cannot arise through the eye. They can't hear or smell or taste or touch anything either. As for Manadvara, they're not feeling or thinking about anything. There's just Bhavanga in that moment. That's why when they perform the duties of Padasandhi, Bhavanga and Kuti, they are without door. When there is the first thought moment of this present life, or Padasandhi, this relinking consciousness cannot see or hear or smell or taste or touch. And at death, in that last thought moment, Kuti, or death consciousness, Santirana cannot arise. To summarize, when these 10 types of consciousness perform the duty of Tadaramana, they arise in 6 doors. And when they perform the duties of relinking, life continuum or Kuti, at that moment they are without door. They cannot arise in any door. That's why we use the word, sometimes. For us, the 8 types of great resultant consciousness have 4 functions, right? Those functions are Padasandhi, Bhavanga, Kuti, and Tadaramana. When they perform the Tadaramana function, there are 6 doors. And when they perform the functions of Padasandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti, there is no door. Let me give you some examples of Tadaramana to make it more clear. When you've eaten something and already swallowed it, you can sort of relive the experience of tasting the food, right? The experience is very close to Jivana. You take the same object, you can think about it, and even taste it. Tadaramana consists of 2 words, ta, which means that, and aramana, which means object. Tadaramana takes the same object as Jivana. In a similar way, you might see a cow standing in the countryside. It will eat during the day, and at night it might just sit there and chew its cud. This is sort of like Tadaramana. Even after finishing the meal, the animal is kind of reliving the experience of eating. Or, like us, after we hear a beautiful song, we might still be able to experience the sound of the melody in our head. The object is very close to the original object, right? We call this Tadaramana. And lastly, how many types of consciousness are always 0 Dvara Sata? 9. When sublime resultant consciousness, the 5 types of form sphere resultant consciousness, and the 4 types of formless sphere resultant consciousness, arises, they are without door. They function only as Padasandhi, Bhavanga, and Kuti. They are always without door.